Hello, you're watching Develop with WP, a show where I try to teach others more about WordPress. Today we're going to do another WordPress short, and I'm going to cover another very useful function called WP Parse Args. WP Parse Args is really handy when you need to create a function and have a whole bunch of default parameters set. And you would do this primarily because you want to have values for certain parameters set, but if the user did want to override them, they could. So let's look at how this could be useful and what it looks like. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a simple function. And this is going to take an array as an argument. So I'm just going to say args equals an empty array. It's kind of like setting like a default value. And then inside I'm going to set some defaults. So it's an array of defaults, and I'm going to say before equals default, after and then we're going to use our parse args. So we're going to say, we're just going to make a variable. I'm just going to call it combined args. Of course, you'll call it whatever makes sense for your program. WP Parse Args is the function we're learning about today. And what you do is the first parameter you pass in is going to be whatever gets passed into the function. So in this example, for this parse args example function, that's going to be args. So this is whatever the user supplies. And then the next thing is going to be your defaults, which for us we call defaults. All right, and then for presentational and for this video, I'm just going to var dump this combined args out so that we can see what we got. All right, so if I save this and I go over here and refresh, we get nothing. Oh, that's because I didn't call my function. I hear that helps. I also feel like I say that every week. I hear that helps. All right, there you go. So as you can see here, we called our parse args example function and we didn't pass anything in. And because of that, the combined args are just our defaults. And so hopefully you can see where this is useful. It allows you to make sure that if you have some parameters, say you have some parameters that you just have to have for your function to run, you could set them as defaults, but potentially the user might want to alter those, and so that's where this comes in. So let's see an example of changing it. If I were to go in here and pass something in, for example, after, and make it equal to my new value, and we were to refresh, you would see that now we have a combination of the two. It's probably not as useful, but another cool thing about WP Parse Args is the fact that, the person could pass in values that aren't in your defaults. So like example and it would get into the array as well. So pretty much you have your defaults, but whatever your args array gets passed in, those will take precedence over whatever existed, which is really cool. Another neat thing about parse args is that it will work with a query string. So you don't actually have to pass in an array like this. You could just be like before equals something and after equals something else. And it'll actually use that, so it'll override those. So that's another really cool thing about parse args, is that it can work with query strings. And this is some of the things that WordPress will use it for. And that brings up another point about WP Parse Args, and I believe I've seen this in core, but don't quote me on it. But WP Parse Args would be a really handy thing to have if you were trying to make sure that if someone passed you a query string, that it would come out right. So for example, if I were to remove the defaults from here and we were to save this and run it, you'd see we get the same result. So this would be a really handy function to simply pass in the first parameter and have WP Parse Args take a query string and break it down for you. Just like this. So that's really cool too. Alright, so that's it. This was just a WordPress short, real quick example of a very cool function that I hope you'll find useful and start to incorporate. It is very similar to PHP's array merge function. So there is also that, but with the combination of the query args, I think it's a much more powerful function. It handles a few more edge cases, and it could be a great tool to use within your WordPress development. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed it. Share, like, tweet, subscribe. Let me know what you thought, and I'll see you in the next video.
Crank it up.